The news is out that Oklahoma State quarterback Gunnar Gundy is taking his talents elsewhere. What does this mean for the Oklahoma State quarterback room moving forward? And we're continuing to hear some good things about our main man, Ollie.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. If you just watched the regularly scheduled show, I greatly appreciate you tuning in here. Now, clearly, this is more of just like a pop-up style of emergency style show, primarily because Gunnar Gundy has made his decision that he will be leaving Oklahoma State University. Is this a surprise? Yes, it is. Primarily because, Gunnar Gundy's already discussed that being here was always his dream. Playing under his dad was always his dream. And it wasn't necessarily so much about being the starter, being the guy. But we are now in this situation. And before we kind of dive further into it and what the implications could potentially be, if you keep hearing this, the crowd was 80% Texas fans. That's ridiculous. I implore you to go check out my Twitter. I posted some pictures of, the crowd, the attendance, and you tell me if it looks like there's just 80% crap fest burnt orange built into the stadium, because I didn't see it. Now, I will admit some portions of the second half I was slightly inebriated, but last time I checked, there's a fairly distinct difference between orange, America's brightest orange, and the burnt toast old school cradola that they call orange. But maybe if they did like an aerial view, maybe the split was a little less than 50-50. I'm not sure. Were there more Texas fans there? Yeah, duh. But them acting like it was 75-80% Texas fans, it's ridiculous. Go check out my Twitter. You'll see the pictures of the stadium and the crowd, and you can make that distinction for yourself. All right, now back to the Gunnar Gundy situation. Here's realistically what I do think it boils down to, right? When you have a quarterback, especially a quarterback, that decides that he doesn't want to start whenever he's the designated starter, that definitely is going to have some repercussions in the locker room. Not necessarily like super negative, like, oh, we don't like Gunnar anymore. Not that by any stretch, but you do have to take into consideration that if you're looking at the quarterback to be a leader, and the coaches have made a determination that you are going to be the guy, and then you take it upon yourself to decide that you're not going to be the guy, it is going to be kind of difficult to gain all of the respect of everybody again, right? It just is what it is. We'll call a spade a spade. And realistically speaking, he wasn't likely to be the starter. Whether Alan Bowman comes back or not, the chances of Gunnar Gundy being the starter at Oklahoma State next year were pretty slim. The future seems to be Garrett Rengel and Zane Flores. Now, what we get out of Malake Smith, that's all going to be, icing on the cake, house money per se. But Gunnar Gundy leaving is not like an indictment on things being bad in Stillwater. This is not a last year situation. If anything, I think it does, lend a hand to the idea that Gunnar Gundy knows that next season is kind of not really his to be had. And the dude's good enough to play. Gunnar Gundy is good enough to go lead Tulsa, UTSA, North Texas, to a very, very good seasons. And he could have potentially done it at Oklahoma State. But again, it's about having your quarterback be that fearless leader. And if at any point in time you feel like that your quarterback is more scared, more nervous than ready, it is going to be pretty visible in the huddle. So I definitely think that this is what's best for Gunnar Gundy, and I do think this really leads the path for what's best for Oklahoma State. Now, as it pertains directly to Alan Bowman, from what I've been told, he has received his decision from the NCAA on whether he's going to get his extra year of eligibility or not. What he's going to do is wait till after the bowl game before he makes his decision. He doesn't want anything to kind of distract any of the bowl prep. And that's fair. That's what you want a veteran leader to do. Now, we also know as a fan base, the largest contingent I can find is ready to move on from Alan Bowman. Now, there were some people that did think Gunnar Gundy would have an opportunity to start next year. But even if you're not in that camp, you got to take some things into consideration. With Alan Bowman, he's a grown man, and he's about to get married. So I would think that, he's weighing a lot of things heavily about returning for this next season. But I don't know that I'd lean too far in making the determination that because Gunnar Gundy is leaving, that means that Alan Bowman is definitely going to take this extra year. I'm not saying he should. I'm not saying he shouldn't. I am saying that when you have 80% of the roster returning, and you do have a large portion of the offensive line returning, and you do have a Heisman candidate coming back at running back, if you do have a quarterback that can do a little bit more than just simply manage the game, that's when you get to create more opportunities. And if we're going to be dead square in the middle of the conversation for the CFP 12-team format next season, we are going to have to take a little bit of a step up in quarterback. Alan Bowman was a phenomenal game manager. Alan Bowman is maybe exactly what we needed this particular season, but we also saw the limitations of Alan Bowman. We also saw that he will forever hold the record book history for most passes thrown into the student section or the fans in the stands. He also was probably instrumental from a leadership perspective in making sure that the locker room was able to kind of regalvanize and rally around each other to make this thing happen. So again, I think as a fan base, most of Oklahoma State Nation is eternally grateful for what Alan Bowman was able to provide. And please feel free, let me know down in the comments section if I'm missing some stuff, because I haven't heard anybody say that they'd be, extremely excited to have Bowman back. I haven't heard anybody say, he's terrible, he shouldn't come back whatsoever. So if you are in the camp that you do think Alan Bowman should come back, I definitely want to hear that side of the equation as well. But again, when you have this many players returning, and then you have the caliber of running back that we do to go alongside somebody like Assesi Valahe, and we have a very, very, very young defense that doesn't seem to be losing anybody. Matter of fact, if you want to go the other side of the ball, we've got a couple defensive linemen that also have an extra year of eligibility, and I'm hearing that likely both of those dudes will come back as well. So again, this 80% of a roster return, to me, indicates that we do need a little bit more than just a game manager at quarterback. His leadership and galvanization was probably very beneficial this year, Wet. I think I don't think anyone's arguing that. But again, what we have coming back next year does not seem to facilitate a pure game manager. Like, we're pretty good, and we're going to have a lot of pretty good guys returning, but are we going to be so good that all we need is somebody that'll hand it off and, drop an occasional dime and then throw it into the stands? Probably not. Like, we need a little bit more. If you want to make a legitimate run at the CFP, I'm not talking about the Big 12 title. I do think that we should end up back in Arlington next year, almost regardless of who we have at quarterback, because we could get by with another game manager and win another 8-9 games. But if we want to crack that next level, as I'm seeing from most of the fan base, Alan Bowman just isn't the dude. So does Alan Bowman, who is a history buff, who is a guy who doesn't want to upset the apple cart before the bowl game, is he a guy that sees the writing on the wall? Most likely, yes. Is he a guy that sees the pulse of the fan base wanting to kind of take this emergence of all of these young cats to go alongside a young cat at quarterback for this next season? Yeah. And again, this is not an indictment on Alan Bowman. This is simply what's best for Oklahoma State moving forward. Bowman should and would be back. Okay, well, so what blanket? I swear to you, you're the first person I've heard say that, right? And again, I do know that there's multiple sides of this coin for the people that are in the Bowman camp. I'm in the Bowman camp. I like Bowman. But I also know that if we bring back another pure game manager only dude next season, we're going to have another good season, but it's going to be comparable, right? I think most people are very well aware that the three quarterbacks that got to participate in the rotation, if that's what you want to call it, all three of them got different play calling sheets. All three of them got different systems. All three of them got different running backs, different wide receivers, different tight ends. So nobody can say that Alan Bowman was definitely the best quarterback on the roster. Nobody can say that because we don't know, right? And if you look at it, I'm not the only film junkie. I know that we've got buddies in here like OT Tom. OT Tom, where you at, brother? That dive into film and see the things that Garrett Rangel can do that is a little bit more advanced as far as stretching the field and taking some more chances than Alan Bowman. Alan Bowman is the safe bet. Yes, that's cool. But Gunnar Gundy is also a fairly safe bet. Does Gunnar Gundy have the ability to throw quite like Alan Bowman? No. But Gunnar Gundy also has the capability to take off and run, which Alan Bowman can't do. He did have a couple rushing touchdowns. I know that. But we also saw him roll out of the pocket, scrambling 73,000 yards backwards to throw the ball out of bounds. He threw the ball out of bounds as much as he threw it to wide receivers, probably. So that is a massive limitation, right? Just call a spade a spade. That is a limitation. Alan Bowman was great for what we needed this season. We needed the regalvanization of the locker room. We needed that style of leadership, 100%, which is, again, why Alan Bowman will go down as one of the quarterbacks that Oklahoma State fans will always remember because he was the quarterback when we played Texas for the Big 12 title. But he's also the quarterback that has a lot of limitations. As I saw somebody say earlier, he's an average quarterback. I mean, I think he's a little above average, but not by much. When you have a running back that can run for 272 yards, 268 yards, 282 yards, 171 yards, 162 yards, when you have that level of running back, of course, a game manager can manage the game. That's what he is. That's what he was. Does anybody think a 7th year in football is magically going to make him more astute in the pocket, more aware of how to manipulate the pocket instead of bailing to throw it out of bounds? Guys, he's been doing this for 7 years. He's not going to just magically figure it all out. I love the dude. I love what he's done for us. But Gunnar Gundy leaving is not a bad sign. Alan Bowman leaving would not be a bad sign. Now, again, if he does come back, we're still pretty good, right? But then we lose one, probably not two, but at least one of our young wide receivers. And for everybody out there that's still on the Zane Flores is the hands down, definite all day, every day future, just so we're aware, Zane Flores has had a difficult time in the last month and a half or so on incorporating the option route concepts into his game. Now, does that mean he can't figure it out? No, not at all. But right now, if the season started tomorrow and Bowman comes back, he's probably the guy because we all know that we're not going to go through another competition again if Gundy can avoid it. We all know that, Gundy does love that seniority, that leadership, right? So he will be the guy, even if he's not the best. If Zane Flores were to do some offseason work and get these option routes more into his game of understanding, he could easily beat out Alan Bowman. If Garrett Rangel puts on another few pounds, picks up his 40 just a little bit more, he could definitely be the guy. Garrett Rangel can do more with his arm than Alan Bowman. So likely can Zane Flores. But is it worth losing one? I don't think we'll lose both because of Tim Rattay. They both love Tim Rattay. Malake Smith loves Tim Rattay and Benny Tonga, right? So there's a common denominator here, and that is Tim Rattay. So as long as Tim Rattay is on staff, we will have the ability to maintain. But once again, we don't need to necessarily view this as a negative. I do think this is more of a positive sign of things moving forward. I think that we do have a decent understanding of what we're going to do. I think that our coaches are very well aware of the progress. And mind you, I don't know who Zane Flores' personal private quarterback coach is over the summer, but I do know that Garrett Rangel's working with a guy in Texas that has multiple NFL quarterbacks in the league at this very moment, several being from the state of Texas. So whatever Garrett Rangel and Tim Rattay and that coach work out, I have confidence that it will continue to get better. It will continue to develop. I also have confidence that Zane Flores will have that opportunity as well. But it doesn't matter if Garrett Rangel, Zane Flores, or if it even would have been Gunnar Gundy, would have just lit up the scoreboard all spring, all fall, and was like head and shoulders above Alan Bowman. Alan Bowman would still come into the season as the guy. Yeah, it is. And I agree, Wet. Obviously, the more good quarterbacks, the better. 100%, especially with injuries and everything that can come into the fold. But again, it only makes sense if Alan Bowman returns, if he's okay with getting beat before the season starts. Because if he's not, then he might do better off just going and taking care of his new soon-to-be wife and moving on to that next level for him. I think he very well could end up being a coach, right? You've heard Mike Gundy make mention of it as well. What are we doing about money? What? I don't. Rattay has had to quarterback that. I don't understand. Maybe I went to the school for kids who can't read good, but that confused me a little bit, Robert. Okay. True stuff, Wet. Robert bet his piggy bank. What? Robert, what are you betting on, man? Well, if you're betting on Rattay staying, I think you're good there. Anywho, now I really honestly wanted to do this and go live for like an hour, but unfortunately, I totally forgot that I have a trigger point injection appointment at the doctor's office in about 35 minutes. So we'll wrap this thing up here pretty quickly. Now, before we finish this thing off, I do want to reiterate, because you are hearing some Texas people like, oh, wait till Ollie starts getting offered all this money and he gone. OU fans are saying, if you think Dylan Gabriel would leave, but Ollie Gordon's going to stay, you don't know the da-da-da-da-da. Once again, from everything I've heard, I've only heard one person say that Ollie's even entertaining the idea of transferring. Every single other person I talk to is telling me that Ollie's happy. Ollie is excited about the future of Oklahoma State. Ollie's excited to have most of his offensive linemen coming back. He's excited to be the first like legitimate Heisman type of guy that we've had in a long time. And while you're not seeing or hearing a bunch of transfers, is because of the NIL packages that are being put together right now. The NIL packages, thank you, Pokes with a Purpose, are more than enough to keep all of these guys at least willing to entertain what it's going to look like after the bowl game. And once again, the communication is better. The direction of what we're going to do and who we're going to be next year, it's already kind of being put forth, which is precisely what the issue was last year, was lack of communication. lack of direction, clearly offensively for the next season. Seems that we've lined all that out. And if we offered Spencer $463,000, best believe Ollie Gordon's going to get a significantly more. Yeah, I think he's staying, guys. I really do. Yep. Yeah, like I said, I've only had one person that has said anything about Ollie might, even be entertaining this idea. So, yeah, that one person, I love you. I do. All right. No hard feelings. I'm not seeing it. I'm not hearing it. I'm not reading it. I think he's a Cowboy, y'all. But again, the Gunnar Gundy thing, this is what's good for Gunnar. And I think this is what's best for Oklahoma State. Now, we just wait on the decision from Alan Bowman, which will not come until after December 27th. It might come right after, or he might wait till after the new year. But again, he's got a lot of stuff to weigh, right? He's a grown man that did a lot of wonderful things for Oklahoma State. He's about to get married. He's about to start the family life. So hopefully we do get an answer pretty quickly after the game. All right, this is the last one. I'm still telling everyone. Yeah, that might be the same one dude, to be 100% honest with you, right? And this people give me a hard time about information acquisition. 90% of the information, it's people that message me, right? A good portion of the time, it's people that I haven't met or I've only met a couple times. But as we're a year deep into this thing now, traditionally, I know there's about a group of 8 to 12 people that when they say something and I can follow it up with other people, it's pretty good. So to have one person saying that Ollie's gone, I don't buy it. I don't buy that one person outweighs all of the collective group wisdom from everybody else. And again, Ollie, to my knowledge, isn't all about this money. It's not about the dollar bills. He knows what he is. He knows what he's going to get. He knows what he's worth. And he knows that he's an NFL guy. He's an NFL guy that can potentially bring a Heisman to Stillwater, Oklahoma once again to go alongside Barry Sanders. Who is Ollie chasing? The greats. He's chasing Barry. He's chasing Thurman. You can't exactly do that and it be the same if you're not wearing a Cowboy jersey. I think Ollie knows that too. What do you mean? I don't know. Stribling, yeah, he's back. Strib's good. We're good to go on Strib. Alrighty, y'all. I gotta go, or I'm gonna get throat punched. Okay, and the doctor's gonna be holding needles, so I don't need that in my life. Alrighty, y'all. You know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes, and we'll do these like emergency now live type of things as more information starts to kind of matriculate out there. Come on, Matt. Come on, man. If we're getting all the alignment back, plus we've got those two freshmen that we're vying for a little bit of playing time, we're gonna be okay. Oh, and I really like Caleb Hackelman. I really do. I think he's going to be another interesting prospect alongside somebody like a Jack Dean. All righty, y'all. I do have to go. You know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Later, taters.